Welcome to Kitchen Conversations. I'm so glad that you're with us tonight as we step into the relationship of racism, the divine dynamic of equality, and what that feels like. So, as always, come on. By the Spirit, I am raised by the divine. Spirit is with me all the time, and I know that I am new, 'cause I feel so good. All is well and unfolding as it should. Don't you know that all is well? All is well. Isn't it unfolding here right now? All is well. All is well. All is well and unfolding as it should. I am blessed by the Spirit. I am blessed by the divine. Spirit is with me all of the time. I am good and so are you. And don't it feel good to know that all is well and unfolding as it should? All is well. All is well. All is well and unfolding as it, unfolding as it, unfolding as it should. Yeah. Thank you, Linda. Oh, that was awesome. So, as always, we start this time with a blessing. So let us get ready to bless the magnificent as we get ready to dive into this day. So take a breath with me. In this divine moment, we give thanks. Thanks for technology. Thanks for the divine magnificence of spirit that is unfolding in and through everyone. Thanks for the joy and the love that is right here, right now. Thanks for the awareness of spirit that is all around us, in and through. How blessed we are to know that right here, God is. And so as we know that God is here, we know that not one soul is free until all souls are free. Well, you better listen, my sister and brothers, 'cause if you do, you will hear the voices that are calling across the years. And they're crying across the ocean, and they're crying across the land, and they will until we all understand. Thank you, Linda. That's awesome. So tonight I'm excited to have two of our favorite kitchen conversation people and behind the scene production person. Um, so tonight we have Sarah Adams with us and also Pat Andrea. So let's bring the panel in. All righty. Well, hello, ladies.
Why, hello.
How you doing tonight?
I'm doing. It's a good day to be alive, right?
Yeah.
Life is good.
Always.
However it is.
Always.
Good to be here.
Good. So, I've gotten different feedback from kitchen conversations that were saying that kitchen conversations was only one-sided, that it did not express a different side other than people of color, than black people. And every time I would say, well, come on, you come on. There was no one that wanted to, that said, okay, I'll come. So I'm glad that you two beautiful lights have come to share your story and what racism and inequality has been in your life. So I'll open with this question. Oh, Pat. When Black Lives Matter came about, what was your first thought?
Well, I don't remember my first thought. I'm one of these people of words,
Yeah.
But I had two thoughts. One is, well, yeah, Black Lives Matter, because they haven't been mattering. They haven't been, and I don't know if that was my very first thought, but it soon followed that. And as I begin to read, different things,
Yes.
and become aware of what's going on in the prisons, for example, the statistics of the number of African Americans that are in prison, reading Just Mercy, I believe, the book. I can't remember, I'm not really great on authors and everything, but Brian Stevenson, I believe, and the statistics about that. There's been other things been going on in my life, throughout my life that kind of, but I think with COVID, again, not sure exactly where all these dates are,
Right. Well, yeah.
But I know that after seeing Breonna Taylor's death, killing scene, then of course George Floyd, and then reading the book, and a number of things just kind of came together. I've actually been involved in civil rights in different ways all my life, but we all have our stories, and if I would tell how I might have been at the time that I was my first involvement, I'd think, oh my God, all these racist things I was saying or trying not to say, whatever, this happened. But with this Black Lives Matter thing, it's different. I've been really seeing this, learning finally about systemic racism. And that's a whole new thing. Not new that it is, new for me to begin to understand it.
Beautiful.
And once in a while, I'll be honest, once in a while, like I'll wear Black Lives Matter, the little band,
Right.
And for the first year I wore, no problem. And then once in a great while, if my own self-esteem was down, to be honest, well, there'd be a moment there, don't mind matter. And then I thought, no, because when every life matters, my life matters, their life, everybody's lives, wherever you're from, whatever your background, whatever your interests, whatever your skin color, whatever, it matters. And nobody is free until we're all free.
Hey now.
I mean, and yet, but I fall, I go off on that, but I try to be around with people who are who see that and are trying to live that.
Yes. So, Sarah, what about you when Black Lives Matter hit full front page?
I remember just feeling that it was good that there was some other way of getting attention and rallying people to have a greater awareness of racism. I think from an education perspective, as an adult, education. I had been aware of the school to prison pipeline. I was aware that there are some systemic things, in the education system that contribute. So I felt like, okay. But still, when it first came, and I also remember feeling, I had some thoughts already about the incident that happened in Ferguson, and I think kind of sparked it because
Michael Brown.
Because I remember there was some research that shows that in education the goal is to have no child left behind or no gap, and there's always been this gap that you could see in data between people of color and students of color and white students, and so there's all these different ideas about how to make it equal. However, the only real effective solution to that has been integration. Like they said, all these different reforms over the last 50 years, really integration has been the only one that's really significantly narrowed the gap. And so I remember in Ferguson there was a move to try to have integration, and the district and the parents. And so I remember I had heard these board meetings and heard these parents, and I just thought, I can't believe I'm hearing this in this day and age. It feels like I'm listening to something that was like in the 60s with the civil rights movement. And so that kind of brought to my awareness, like, oh, there's just nowhere near what I thought over. Like, this is nowhere near what I thought we were. And so I think in that way, Black Lives Matter served its purpose of bringing it to the forefront. And unfortunately, it's just it's been fueled by the tragedies of these different killings. And so I remember feeling that just sorrow for that, or with Trayvon Martin or Tamir Rice, or all of and of course with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and all the list of names. It just to me it feels irrefutable. There's no denying that that's been the experience. So I think the other thing that was good for me is that the invitation to look deeper at my own part, the systemic part that Pat was mentioning. So I had been a supporter, or maybe what I thought had been an ally, and I was raised in a pretty liberal household, and I was raised in a Black church, and mostly Black church, and I have family members that are African American, but I really did not have an understanding of the nuances and my own participation and privilege. So I think that's been a gift from Black Lives Matter that's sparked more conversation about that and a deeper look into the smaller, nuanced ways that really create the structuralized racism. So
Awesome. I got to ask the question because it was.
She's got a smile on her face. I wonder what it's going to be.
It was put to me and I can't answer it. And so someone that is white said to me that they asked, Gino, do you not feel that we are now the enemy, that white people have become the enemy, that Black Lives Matter, all of this stuff about the police, that now as a white person, I'm afraid to say, to do, I'm wrong all the time. And so, honestly, I can understand if at one point you're the privileged, you're the top of the mountain, you're the king, and now everything is focused. And to me, yes, definitely is the color line is there, but the focus is really on the system of, but I don't want to give my answer. I want to know what you feel.
No, it is on the system. What was the actual question again?
The question is, as a white person.
I get intrigued. I listen to what you're saying, but both you guys are talking about it. Like, oh, yeah. And then now what was the question again?
The question is, as a white person,
Okay.
Do you feel as though now the system is against you? Do you feel as though that you are now the enemy, that you have become this culprit?
No, I don't feel as a person. I feel the system, more and more, the system. And those people, yes, who stop the system from dismantling the system, making it equal, getting at so
Yeah.
many levels, then obviously they are the problem.
Yeah.
But I think to me, go back is to the ism, the systemic, and that has actually, I go back to it because it's, for me, sometimes I need a handle on some basic belief or some basic principle, and that from there I go. And this for me has been there I go. There I can understand at so many levels because as a white person of privilege, I have not experienced some of these systemic racism.
Right.
And yet, I don't think, we all are losing, by the way.
Yeah.
We are all losing.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of, and again, I guess I learned, I learned a lot of stuff way back, but it was like I was raised in a white liberal,
Yeah,
Irish
yeah.
American, Catholic, there's some great things, but with this systemic racism, it's like, oh yeah, I see it here, and I'm seeing it here. And I don't see it like every minute, but like every day, I kind of, if I'm open,
Right.
I see the system. For example, I had no idea, and I was involved in politics as a Democrat or, different young Democrats in college, whatever. But I never realized that what the power the district attorneys had.
Yeah.
I used to call friends in Seattle, okay, now what judge should I vote for? Because I just want to keep track of all this. So I had a friend who kept track of that. But it never occurred to me to think of the district attorney and what power they have. That's just one area. It's just amazing.
Yes.
I was going to say something else. I forgot now. I'm
Okay.
sure. I'm sure we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No.
I'm looking at you too. I thought I didn't have anything to say, and I'm looking at you too. Oh yeah, another thing. I want to say at one point too that Sarah gave a beautiful class, and I'm forgetting the name of it.
My grandmother's
My
hands.
grandmother's
with
hands.
Mama Malcolm. Yeah.
And there's been a number of those classes that our center has held that has been extremely helpful to help me navigate through what's been going on and what my role can be and what it has been and when it's not always that role, but what it, there's been that you taught that class and that was online, right? So a number of classes are online. And then I know I'm blank now, but there are other classes too that have been marvelous. And I know, but I can't remember the specifics that Gino is behind a number of these things happening. And the music.
Yeah, that's
that was
groovy.
great. It's
That's
wonderful.
groovy.
Yeah.
I have to applaud our center for
Yeah.
all the things that we do for racial equality. But, Sarah?
So I think when someone comes from a place of feeling that they're coming from a place that's defensive, feeling like that means they're coming from a place of separation, that they're coming from a place that thinks, and this is part of the systemic issue, they're coming from a belief that in order for me to be right, you have to be wrong, or for you to be right, I have to be wrong. And that's like a binary system that whole system or context of thinking is flawed. So if you have that context, then of course there's no way to eradicate racism because there's always that place of separation, and somebody's always getting ahead at the expense or the exploitation of someone else. And I also think when I was starting to go to college, I want to say that maybe the early 90s there had been that movement about affirmative action in California, and there was a proposition that was passed to dismantle
Yeah.
that. And I remember there was this upswell of like these white, mostly males who felt like they were losing out, that somebody else was being given their spot in
Right.
college because of affirmative action. But that is predicated on a belief that, or an experience of privilege that, you're ahead by stepping on somebody else, though. So rather than coming from a place of wholeness, like, what is the good of the whole? How are we together as a people? And I think, in general, our country has gone too far on the rights of the individuals at the expense of the whole. And so, wanting the rights to the states wanted to have the right to not have slavery. Well, They wanted their own free states' rights, but that right was immoral. It was to have the right to own other people and exploit them. So that individual right only that only goes so far. So I think that's where it's rooted in that idea that I have to get ahead, and regardless of the consequences or the impact of my opportunities. Because what if we all as a society valued diversity? What if we thought we want our college communities to be diverse, and so we want to have different cultures and backgrounds and experiences represented? Like, what if that was our goal? What if we accepted that out of the wholeness of our society, that there's enough opportunities for everyone, and maybe you don't get your first choice of college, but you go somewhere that you have an opportunity. So this is back on the affirmative action idea, but I think that's kind of where it started. This idea that there's that white people are being discriminated against and attacked. So I don't feel attacked in that way. I feel like if I'm coming from a place of wholeness, and coming from a place of wanting the best for all of us, then I don't feel like I'm being made wrong or singled out for me being white. I think that's coming from like I said, a limited place that's defensive and feeling like it's one or the other. I'd rather have it be where I'm okay. I know that I'm good. I know that I have good intentions. I know that I want the best for myself, but I also want the best for my community and my society. I don't want anyone to suffer. And so if I'm coming from that place, then I would want to be an ally. I would want good things for whoever I'm talking to.
You know, I get that these are uncomfortable because it's sometimes what we don't want to say, because there are things that are running through me, through you, and the lopsided of our world, because it's not just with colors and sexuality, it's in health, it's in career, it's in every area, this dis-ease that someone has to be this way in order for the world to work this way. And so for me, this journey, when that person asked me that question, it wasn't about making white people wrong. It's about understanding a system that has put everybody into a place that caters to one, slights, maneuvers, legislation, when we realize that, and for me, I had to get that, because yes, there are some hearts are hard and angry, and but I can't change a heart, but legislation can be changed. And so recognizing that the system that is currently running, I have to say Joe shared something with me, that here in San Diego, and I don't want to say they started it, but possibly, here in San Diego, real estate agents no longer call the master bedroom because it was named after the master's bedroom. I was like, that makes perfect sense. I never thought of it like that. It's the master's bedroom. And so now they call it the primary bedroom. And it was interesting sharing that with some black people, so I'll put this out to you. The take was on two sides. One, the take was like, oh, see, that's just white people trying to make it nice and trying to clean it up so that people can forget that that's what it means or that's what it's implying. And the other side was like, well, that's cool that we've recognized that. Now we must teach to keep that along. So what are you?
We need to, I did that understand.
So one side was that, was really, for me, was that they were irritated that, yeah, okay, the master's bedroom. You want to now try to clean that up and make it pretty like it never happened.
Right, like try to forget this.
Try to forget this.
All of that goes with that. Yeah.
You know, try to forget this. And the other side was like, but that is a step in the right direction. It's up to us to continue what that storyline is, to teach what that brought about. So I was just, for me, it was a little shocking because there was more than than I thought that was going to be on the other side. It was just anger. It's just this, it was this constant feel that, oh, okay, so now you want to try to make it pretty. And in all rights, the legislation, it's not about a master's bedroom, but legislation doesn't change, but they make content that changes. You know, so you have, in Virginia still in today's time, where you can lynch a black person and it's legal, it's in legislation. So the appearance appears to change, but what's really running hasn't. And that's really what Master's bedroom kind of represented, was like, okay, yeah, you're recognizing it, but there's been no real culture.
No real deepness
change.
going into to really look at
Yeah,
it.
but I think we have to start somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. I guess that you do. You have to start with it. And I think that happens in a lot of places. You know, the oddest thing is that during COVID, among other things, I only have public TV basically up on a wall, you know. But I also have commercial TV a little bit. So I thought, okay, I'll watch from 8 to 9 in the morning. You know, I'll start watching Gayle King, I believe is her name.
Okay.
Yeah, you know. And I started noticing things. I started noticing, oh, the commercials, since I've watched them, they've changed. There's finally diversity. And I was so happy. You know, it's like, oh, right, a beginning. And I started noticing other things. And I thought, yeah, it's little, you know, but then somebody said, yeah, but I said, I know, but they have to hire those people.
Right.
They have to hire them. And some days I can be on a positive thing, you know, and some days I'd be on the other end.
Yes.
But I'm noticing a lot of things like that. And then I go back the other way, you know, when I look at the prisons, when I look at, but I think the systems, as the systems start changing, yes, there's the people and the systems have to change too.
Yes.
But to have that at least on the books to start it and to move forward, and wherever that might be, like you noticing the thing about the master bedroom, I didn't know that.
I know.
I mean, that's a tiny thing. It's a huge thing.
Yeah.
It's not just it's a tiny thing. No, it's a gigantic thing.
Yeah.
And
It makes perfect sense. When you,
it does. It makes perfect sense. And I was thinking, going back to what you were talking about, Sarah, about the change, you know, of all of us, you know, being, I mean, if we're not free, if one of us is not free, we're just not free, you know. And I was thinking of when I used to live in near Chicago, and I saw the role sometimes of, I don't know how I got this, probably because of my father's family from Ireland, in the sense learning a lot about the racism there, the racism against the Irish. I mean, English for like 800 years, squared and quartered, hung for speaking the language, the famine, and on and on and on. So maybe but I noticed how, like, when there was like violence going on, they were like, quote, pitting white Poles, the Polish, who didn't have much money, competition. So they thought the blacks were taking over, or they weren't going to get any kind of education. And I thought, and yet people in the North could say, and I lived in the North, I mean, you know, but I'm saying some of us would, at that time, we're thinking, oh, those people, what are they doing? They're competing, they're, you know, the violent people doing that. And I thought, yeah, but what's the role of people with the background with a lot of money, but have the, you know, have the power and structure to change things?
Can I just say something to that? And with our history, the families, the Fitzgeralds, you know, all of the main families, a lot of their money came from drugs and alcohol, from illegal things.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, the Kennedys.
Yeah. You know, there were a lot of families that came, the wealth that they were, not only illegally, but things that they stole and took from black families, land and property. And so, you know, the story that blacks were lazy and we don't have the type of generational wealth because of a lot of that, inventions that were stolen. So, you know, there are a lot of things that people could hold on to, but I just wanted to, you know, it's all nice and clean right now, a lot of them, but that's not where it started.
It's not clean.
That's the point that you're making about the master bedroom. So, I mean, I think we have to start somewhere. And back to the point about how would you,
Yeah.
how do white people feel do they feel defensive or being attacked or made wrong? But if we're truly coming from a place of responsibility, why wouldn't we want to look at something and be responsible? What do we have to, what are we risking? What do we have to prove? You know, I can accept responsibility that I was part of this system.
You're
You
part
know,
of the system, yeah.
Right. So I think it goes back to encouraging whatever the work is, the inner work, to allow us to look at things more honestly and have whatever the inner stability is to be able to have the wherewithal to do that and look with courage and be responsible, and then we can respond. So with the master bedroom, then yeah, I think it's important that we know that, and then we can do something, whether it's you know, changing it to the primary bedroom. That's one thing. I mean, at least it brings awareness. Remember that, because language does shape culture. It's also a reflection of culture. So we change language. It's one small step. It shouldn't be the only step. I mean, there should be all the other parts about housing and, you know, equal housing and equal access and policies from that perspective. But I think it all goes back to us being able to feel, I don't know, secure or whole or healed enough to be able to withstand having somebody bring up something that we could do something about and be responsible and have a way to respond, rather than being defensive. Because to me, a person who's just defensive and denying has not done any work, does not have the courage or the fortitude to be able to like look something difficult in the eye and have an earnest conversation. Or they're not in touch with a loving space that they could love themselves and love somebody else. So that to me, if someone's feeling attacked, like from a white perspective, to me it just means that there's more work for them to do.
And I think that works on both sides. If sometimes I do feel like I want to attack. Sometimes I'm defensive in things that are said or comments that are made, not only as a black person, but as a woman at times, feeling as though I'm being demeaned or pushed aside. It's very frustrating. And I just want to say that, you know, this system of systemic racism, yes, it has absolutely affected black people, people of color, but there's no way that it would not have affected my white brothers and sisters, because the journey to go through the trials and tribulations to become a mob, to, you know, the afternoon in the parks where they would bring their kids and lynch someone, that has an effect systemically on all of our white brothers and sisters as well. I would think it's impossible not to, for that energy to not have been carried through, to be a point of fear. Oh my God, what if they turn around and do the same thing to us? You know, these are things that I think we just have to be able to put on the table. And I don't know if they're, you know, if you're going to always agree with the way I see or feel, if I'm going to always agree with the way you see or feel, but being able to learn how to speak about it, where it's not feeling as though I got to punch you in your face. You got to kick me in my stomach.
Well, I think that was one of the things that I gained from that book, My Grandmother's Hands, with Resmaa Menakem. I mean, looking at trauma that's been passed down generationally, like genetically, markers that carry on from parents, grandparents. And so then also looking at, then there were some exercises where we got to look at our own history. And so looking at my own, I also have an Irish background and Irish, Scottish, English. So looking at what trauma from those people carried forward. So of course, you know, they felt, it was a very violent culture where you know, people were drawn and quartered or beheaded or tortured, and certainly discriminated against. You know, Irish or Scottish were considered heathens, and or there was the famine. So there was a lot of trauma that got carried down. So then trauma that's not dealt with gets turned around and relayed to somebody else. And so of course, if you're coming from, that's also a place, a culture that's very tribal. So then now you're feeling like, what do? Then you circle the wagons and you do what you do to help you feel safe, which may be, And again, it's also about like poverty and socioeconomic issues. So Irish weren't very affluent here. They were not. They were
Yeah.
mostly indentured servants and people in poverty. And so that was something else we talked about in this book. That the idea was that an upper echelon stratus in socioeconomically could then make them feel better if they created a third class. Like they were already second class
Right.
citizens, but if you create a third class, well then maybe it's not so bad. So you know what I mean? Like that was a trauma response that was unhealthy. It distracted them from the actual truth, which was that they're themselves being exploited. But if they're better, if they're slightly less exploited than somebody else, then I guess they all, can live with that. And so that's the issue. We're just passing it on. So it's for us to go back and look at what's our own history with trauma from generations and people, and how have we carried that out and put that on to others.
Yes, and something that we continuously do. When you look at that and the whole frame of that, every culture has had its, have been slaves, indentured, or and the thought process of that. Well, if I can just be one step above, we can make them the indentured slave, or they can go up underneath. That whole thinking process has been one of really kind of like a slave mentality, that if I can block somebody else, then I can save myself. And so we find ourselves now in a culture that is very radioactive. I was traveling this weekend, and I want to tell you.
You said radioactive? Is that-
Yeah.
I want to make sure I heard you first.
Yeah, traveling Sunday at LAX, just people are just reactive, so reactive. So, I look at everything that's going on, not just with racism, sexism, inequality, health issues, finances, and it's like everything is coming up all at once for people. Mm-hmm. And so here's this big glob. And so there was a man at the airport, and he was a white man. I was sitting there watching this unfold, and actually I thought he knew the man that he was going up to. I play a lot with my friends, so I thought it was like he was going up to mess around and play with him, because he came out of nowhere and he went directly to this man, and he go, "Why are you here? What are you doing here?" And I could tell by the way the man turned around and looked, and he looked as though he was from the Middle East, there with his wife and child. And so the man is looking, and now everybody gets that, no, this man does not know this. He was an imbecile, I gotta say it. And he doesn't have a mask on, and he's just streaming and just saying all type of belligerent things. And I almost heard myself start to say something. And I stopped myself. Because this was somebody that was ready to fight. And so the man just took his wife and his child, and he just stood in front of them. Mm-hmm. And he walked off, but you could hear him from like 2 rows over, talking about every person of color, just yelling profanity. And he's yelling that the man should have a mask on, which the man had a mask on. He was the one that didn't have a mask on.
Yeah, I thought
So
he
he's
was the one.
clearly probably mentally ill or something that had some sort
Well,
I'd like to say that, but I
like to
don't
think
think,
that too.
I don't think
Sarah,
so.
I wish I could think that, but then maybe there's a number of people that are.
I'm gonna tell you, I don't think he was mentally ill. I think he was angry, and part of that privilege, that how dare you be in my country, that's what it felt like to me. And maybe I'm looking with different color eyes, but that's totally what it felt like. And there were 2 people sitting next to me, and the woman says, "Lord, I hope he doesn't get on this plane and they have to duct tape him." And I thought, duct tape? That is hilarious. So when I get on the plane, they don't let him get on the plane, thank God. when I get on the plane, there's a lady that's sitting next to me, and she said, Frontier, they just bring out the crazies. I said, what do you mean? She said, did you not see the man duct taped on Frontier Airline? I was like, that's real? This happened like about a week and a half ago. On the flight, they're flying. White man starts, first he was groping a couple of the stewardess. From there, he got very belligerent and started just swinging. So it was a black man that was a steward that you saw duct taping him to his seat. And this is where the problem of systemic racism comes in. Because initially what they saw was this black man duct taping this white man. Black man was immediately, he was fired at first. Thank God for the people on the flight that sent in video that showed that what would they do? This man was out of control. You're in midair. You're in midair. You've already groped a couple of the other
Dangerous.
Yes.
God.
So to protect himself, and you saw this man, he was swinging for the poles, swinging for the poles. But the first thing was like, he was penalized first without them checking. So then after they got all these other videos that showed his behavior, they put him on suspension with pay while they investigate. And I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I believe if he had been a white steward, I don't think he would have been fired. I think the benefit of the doubt would have been there. And that's part of the challenge, that there was no benefit of the doubt. There was no checking before you fired this man. That here was an irate passenger that was, I don't know what kind of drugs, alcohol, or whatever, but it's on YouTube. You can check it out. And it's Frontier duct taping. And unfortunately, Frontier's had a few incidents. But all that being said, that because we are in this mix right now of everything being so volatile, what do you do? How do you bring yourself back to center?
Well, sometimes I don't right away, to be honest with you. And to be really honest with you, because my teachers over there from the Essential Ernest Holmes, they have a beautiful class from Sharonda right now.
Pat is a plugaholic. I love it.
She's a what?
Plugaholic.
Oh, I've never heard of that. That's really cool. I'll take that.
I love
That's
that. I
really
love
nice,
it.
a
You-
plugaholic.
yeah.
I'll take that. Let's see, what was I going to say?
No, I asked, what do you do to bring yourself back to
Oh, yeah,
center?
okay. First of all, mask. I don't mean that brings me back.
Yeah.
That gets me going.
Huh.
Now, I have to admit, I still have a knee-jerk reaction when I go places or I walk. When it was earlier, when I walked down the street early on, and people weren't wearing masks, close by. I'm in that generation, that age, and whatnot. And I still, tonight, I asked people in this restaurant, I went to grab some food, because Colonel Sanders wasn't open to the people to sit down. And I'm sorry, I'm not plugging for them, but anyway. So I went over to this other place, really cool. And nobody, the people who work there were not wearing masks. And, but it's a big place. I mean, it's all windy and all that.
Yeah.
But I just said, so you don't have to wear a mask. And he says, no, I don't. And I thought I could have really gone. I mean, it's like, And so for me, I'm using a mask as the example I'm going to hold a mask as an example for me to first kind of center myself. And now, if that a situation like happened at the airport, that's really, but to center myself and to remember that, now I'm talking about masked people right now.
Okay.
But to really try to center myself in love and thinking some things that Sarah, you just said, about, I don't know where they're coming from, they could be a lot going on in their life.
Yeah.
And I thought, it wasn't like he was slobbering over my food to serve me or whatever, I mean, and I thought, okay, here's where I can make decisions. Here's where I can practice, just starting here. I don't just do it here, but starting
Yes.
like grounding myself, trying to think of stability, of heart, integrity. Lots of times I don't have these, but I say them.
Right.
And it tries, because I live in a place where I'm a ageless. Somebody called me an elder the other day, and I was very pleased because the person is an editor of mine. He's from Vietnam. He was there his first 12 years. So he gave it to me as a compliment, as an Asian or
Oh, yes.
First Nations. And for the first time, that was beautiful. I really took that. So I try to think of these things and think of the fact that I'm living in situations. I live by myself. I don't have a family. I don't have pressure on money. There's a lot of things. So that in both ways, in both directions, to try to remember before I go off the handle or do something.
Right, right.
Now, if people are doing something like, I try to take pictures with my video out. If I see, I live in an area where somebody's smiling. I don't know.
No, I'm just.
Anyway, so I live in an area where there's a number of people that are shelterless. Neighbors without homes. Somebody turned at that, and that helped me.
Yes.
But sometimes there, in that community, there's a upsetness, and sometimes police will come along, and not so much. I haven't seen it real recently, where, particularly maybe a couple blocks down, that there's like 5 policemen for one person sitting
Right.
there, and black, white, different, but they don't have power,
Yeah.
So I take out my camera and just kind of, respectfully, but take it out and start taping, just to have it, just for something to do. There's just so many things.
So that's the way you're giving back to help move equality forward.
Yes. There's a number of ways, actually. I belong to organizations. I get a lot of emails, from.
Okay.
But so I kind of pick and choose, some to donate to. There's an organization, Sarah, you might know, or you probably know. It was a year ago. Was it last summer? It was called 21 Days, where where for 3 times a day or 2 times a day we checked in. I think it was Centers for Spiritual Awareness, and for 21 days we all checked in all over the state and did things and broke down into groups. And now they still have that. I want to mention it. It's still going. It's not twice a day.
Right.
It's sent for. I don't think it's set on the 21st day, but it's sent through email, and there's all these different things you can do, and all different levels. If you are wherever you are, they have different themes. Last month I think was to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
They had good meditation, but there's all kinds of links. You guys probably know about this already, or maybe
Yeah,
have
we used to
started.
have it on. We had a link to them on our webpage.
Yeah,
for
there's a
racial
lot of
equality.
things people could do. Very, and coming together, it is good to try to come together.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Anyway, and then going to that.
So I'm just going to
Yeah.
say this. Well, Sarah, I'm going to ask you, since we're running a little over, what's your way of giving back to, or giving forward, or paying it forward for racism equality in this world? How would you say that you?
Well, I think it does start with yourself. So part of it is just cultivating your own awareness and spiritual practices, so you can work through your own trauma and not be reactive. And so you're just practicing being more aware, practicing having some grace for yourself, or some loving awareness, so that you have kind of I have like a reservoir, so that when something does happen, I'm not so quick to jump on it. I have a little bit of space. I can pause. So I think that's first. Is then when I'm in more of a centered, grounded place, that's I can access, spiritual truth, or what's the bigger picture, I can access that bigger picture from that space, right? So then I can see like what's mine to do, whether it's to say something to something I see, you know, or have a conversation with somebody, or set a boundary. Sometimes there has to be a firm boundary. Like I think I've told you about the story about this, you know, a parent at my school who was spouting some inappropriate things and being very reactive, so giving a boundary, like you may not be here in this place if you're acting like that. So reflecting back, but then also just trying to like develop my, you know, learn more too. So continue to read, continue to learn, listen to interviews or read books or our movie of the week. I like, you know, supporting Black-owned businesses.
Yes.
I'm part of a committee at school of our larger school organization that's for equity, diversity, and inclusion. I'm trying to educate on critical race theory and the kind of the misconceptions that happen with that around education and what's happening in schools. So, so those are some of the ways I do what I can. I feel like by me being in education, that it's a prime opportunity for me to do that work in that realm.
Yes.
I do try to continue to stay reflective, to make sure to check myself for biases and to check to check my decisions and my assumptions, and just to try to be as aware as I can.
Thank you. I want to thank you both. That was beautiful, Sarah. That was really beautiful. And let the baby bark. Let the baby have a voice. It just saw a wonderful little doggy there. Thank you both.
Thank you
for coming on and sharing and being able to share your perspective and a little bit of your story. You know, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. And thank you. This is our Divine Conscious Giving time. So, thankful to everyone that donates. Gratitude before me, gratitude behind me, gratitude to the left of me, gratitude to the right of me, gratitude above me, gratitude below me, gratitude within me, gratitude all around me. I'm so grateful. 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 This is our Racial Equality Action of the Week, or actually it's the Action of the Month. We are asking all of you to go on our webpage. There is a list of Black-owned businesses throughout North Park, and to take the time and go and visit one and patronize, and then come back and just say, hey, yeah, I went and checked it out. Joe and I went to one. It was really beautiful. As well, you know, we have our gala coming up, September the 24th. Whoop, 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 whoop. If you haven't done your selfie video, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? We want that selfie video. We want to make a beautiful montage, so please. I think the deadline is August the 20th, which is just a couple of days. But come on, people, come on. And as well, our movie of the month, The United States versus Billie Holiday, is a powerful movie that's happening this Friday, right here at the Lions Club.
there'll be popcorn and jujus and M&Ms and maybe other little treats that you can bring your own little treats going on. So we have a lot of things going on, and as Pat Plugorama Pat has so all our classes that are happening and a lot of things that are going on. Go to our webpage, universalspiritcenter.org, and check us out. We are a living, divine conscious community, and we are a global expression doing everything we can to expand consciousness and for all to live life in a world that works for all. So I thank you for being here. Let's thank Doug for being back on the backside and doing the media. He's joining the media team. Yay, yay, yay. You know, we always work out things on Wednesday so that Sunday is even smoother and better, huh? As always, thank you, Linda, for tinkling the keys. We want to thank our divine audience. Thank you, audience, for being here. And once again, have to thank our panel again, Sarah and Pat. Thank you so much for being here and sharing. Really beautiful. So, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I know that you are shining the light of spirit. Gratitude before me, gratitude behind me, gratitude to the left.